All right, here we are. All right, we got a couple people still going. Welcome back, everybody. It's been a little bit since we've been back on here. I think the last one we did was with Dan
Yes.
Arbuckle. But if you would, if you're out there, let me know you can hear me just before we get started here. And let's see.
I can hear us on Facebook.
Okay, well there you go. That's all that matters, that we can hear ourselves here. But really quick, before we get into today's topic, awesome. Thank you, Scott. Before we get into today's topic, we're going to go ahead and do the drawing for the Ketch board, which you see right here. And they've got a new product called the Ketch Stubby, which you see right there. It's very similar to the Yak Attack Mighty Mount, just a single T-track. And then the puck, that's optional if you have a bona fide kayak. So we're doing, and what I did is just went down, we're celebrating our 10,000 subscribers. And so I picked the 10th person that requested the Ketch board and the 10th person that requested the stubby and puck, or just the stubby in general. So without making everyone wait, Wesley Haygood is the winner of the Ketch board, and Jeff Carnival 708 is the winner for the Ketch stubby and puck. So congratulations to you guys. I'll reach out to you on the video, on the comments, because that was one of the things to be in there, was to be, again, kind of celebrating the 10,000 subscribers, which thank you everybody who have subscribed, that watch us on Facebook, on YouTube. And then also for Ketch, for, we've got a new discount code with them. They sent some product over for us to test out, and definitely like supporting a U.S. company made right here in the U.S., quality products. We all know Ketch's products with their measuring boards, but kind of wanted to dig a little bit deeper on some of their other products. But today's topic is something that I know is everyone's favorite thing to hear about. Is we're talking about PFDs, and we've got on our PFDs just to kind of show how comfortable they can be, what you get with a quality PFD. Nobody wants to break the bank on anything that they're buying, but you're talking about your life. I would almost rather see someone buy a quality PFD before they actually go out and look for a kayak, because it's an important part of your budget, just like your paddle is. I feel like a lot of people focus too much on the kayak, and then they may go to a big box store or a boat supply store and just buy one of those little rings or something that they just want to throw in the back of the kayak. A lot's been made here in the last couple of weeks. We've already had fatalities out there in the kayaking community, and we see it every year here locally on the lakes and the
rivers, especially.
Yeah. I think last year we had a 65-year-old drown in a 1.5 foot of water, got caught in a strainer. 4th of July, Memorial Weekend's going to be here before you know it. And there's just, we're following the law by having the PFD within reach on the kayak. But it doesn't do you a whole lot of good if you fall out of the kayak and something happens. So what you get with a quality PFD, besides just flotation, well, you get comfort. So what we've got on, I've got the Stolquist Keeper right here. And then you've got the
Stolquist Glide.
The Glide. Okay. And then Stolquist actually made women's vests, which, just a little less padding in the chest area. You can make the argument that I need a little extra support up there, but they're comfortable, and we're going to have these on during our live stream. We, when we're bank fishing, if we see a fishy spot and we're just in the vehicle, we actually wear these when we bank fish, because I'm going to kind of stand up. Yeah.
Okay.
So we got line cutters on the zipper. We've got tether points. I've got forceps here. I keep my phone in this pocket zipped up, and I've got lures. I've got tool, for removing hooks. I tend to over prepare on it, but go ahead.
Mine is not as fancy as him. I have like 2 pockets, and I'm just going to pull out what I have in here because I dropped this thing earlier and then realized that there's things in it. Because the last time we actually wore these was last weekend when we were on the Buffalo. So for me, apparently I've got hemostats, I've got a knife, and then my favorite part is I've got a little baby bug.
Got a knife just in case you got to cut a fool.
Yeah.
So, and I get this question a lot when you're talking about PFDs. I see it online, and some of you reach out to me where, best for big guys. So the reason I wear Stolquist is these bad boys right here. So these are straps that kind of go underneath the ribs down, and what it does is it keeps it from riding up. Pulling these tight, so when I sit down in my kayak, it's not riding up. It's comfortable, it's firm, but not tight. And, too many people skimp too much on their PFD. So, and I'm not going to talk a whole hour about, what you should or shouldn't buy, but just know there's a lot of quality stuff out there. So Stolquist is one. There's plenty of Stolquist out there, even though Aqualung, who's over them, has shut down the U.S. operations. But you've got NRS is a very, very high quality brand. You got Astral out there. You've got a lot of stuff. The biggest thing that I always tell people is get you a kayak specific vest. They're going to shape like a vest and not a coat. They're going to give you that full range of motion. And it's always good, and I know I preach this all the time, go to a paddle shop that sells them. Don't just go to, if a big box store is the only thing you've got available, by all means. But you want to talk to somebody that knows what they're doing. There's so many times where I would see people at the life jacket station, they're trying them on, they don't fit, and they just don't know how, you got to open them all the way up. You got to cinch them up a certain way, especially when they're new. We've had both of these for a couple of years now. They're broken in. They fit like a baseball glove. Yeah, they're phenomenal products.
So one of the things I kind of want to talk about, because Chris Funk hit it on the head here with a good PFD is comfortable enough. I forget I'm wearing it. So one of the things that I think I have to come clean about is I was a lake rat, not really a river rat, but we were on the lake a lot. And that was one of the things is I actually learned, I'm originally born and raised in Chicago, somehow managed to learn how to swim on the Buffalo. And then in the lakes, what my dad would do, because we had a boat, is he would put PFDs, he would tie PFDs to a ski rope, and he would have us swim from one to the next to kind of get used to that. And so I grew up like, we had to wear PFDs until we were like 12 on the boat, but I was one that I just did not enjoy wearing a PFD. And when we first met, like I had a paddleboard and my PFD, there were times that I did not have one, which could have gotten me into a lot of trouble. And then the other big thing was when we first bought PFDs, we bought we went the ski type ones, and it was, I will honestly say, it was miserable.
It was the most uncomfortable thing ever.
And I mean, and we got really soft ones. We went, we kind of went that direction, but in terms of paddling, I've never been more uncomfortable in my life. And then when we actually switched to the kayak ones, is that movement that you're constantly having is just, I mean, the only thing that I've ever been slightly irritated with, and I think it's just more my seat, is my buckle will actually get caught a little bit as I'm paddling, but it's not like a catch where it really interferes with anything. It's more just annoyance than anything, but it really doesn't make a big difference for me. But yeah, we've gotten to the point where, I mean, if we're bank fishing, I will either steal his or I will take mine, or we will both take ours, because we tend to store stuff in it, and it's just extremely comfortable.
It's convenient too. I mean, like you said, the storage, a lot of your fishing specific ones, and you don't have to get a fishing specific one. The fishing ones tend to be a little pricier just because you got all the storage, you got all the pockets, all the tether points. Some of them even have like the little knife, which I feel like a lot of people don't use. That's another really nice thing to have, is a river knife, in case you need to cut loose from something. Some people do, most people don't, I feel, on that. But one of my followers on Facebook, they posted this video, and I want to say it was a Vibe shearwater kayak that they found out on the lake. They just found this thing, and of course it was all fancied up. It had fish finder, it had outriggers on it, which I thought was kind of weird. And then it was taken on water, and there was a PFD attached to the seat. A lot of, depending on what state you live in and what regulations you have, that's really all you got to have. You got to have it within reach. Mm-hmm. And I always told people when I worked at the paddle shop is always assume when you need to use your PFD, it's going to be in an emergency situation. Never assume consciousness when you're in a boating accident.
Yeah. And most people, I think, have this perception, and I know I did, especially with my, what's that thing called? That's sitting in the garage that I started on, paddleboard.
Paddleboards.
Yeah. So,
we're firing on all cylinders today.
Yeah. So with my paddleboard, I just assumed like it floats. That's great. And a lot of people do that, I think, with kayaks. And we've kind of known, because we've known about some of the things that happened. And the instance he's actually talking about was something that was going around on Facebook. And actually, timely enough, Kayak Cushion just posted an older video of a guy being basically thrown out of his kayak while he's fishing by jet skiers, and he had his PFD on. And I can honestly tell you, you never feel like you need it until you do, and at that moment, if it's not on you, it's too late.
Yeah, it's similar to a seatbelt. I had a bad accident when I was younger and didn't have a seatbelt on. It changed my life in how I navigated after that. And the thing with water and even vehicles to an extent, but the thing with water is the great equalizer. It is a force that is unmatched out there. And I'm never, I'm big about freedom. I'm big about people making their own choices. But the thing that I always tell people is somebody is counting on you to be home, whether it's kids, whether it's relatives, loved ones, friends, all of the above.
Your dog.
Yeah, the lady last year, the 65-year-old that she drowned in low water situation. She got caught in a strainer, a tree root ball, and the people that she was with couldn't paddle back up to her because they just went over a shoal, and by the time they got to her, it was too late. Well, that old lady I'm sure she had grandkids. She might have a husband, kids. Like somebody's counting on you to be home. So that was my biggest thing with that, was just thinking about everybody that you care about, that is it always hits with me when something tragic happens. That age group, that could be a brother or a sister, that could it always hits me. So, and it's 100%. Usually it's preventable. We had the junior auxiliary here locally used to put out, and they probably still do, accidents over the past year just in this local area. So because we have a lot of lakes and a lot of rivers around here, and I want to say it was 75% of fatalities did not have a PFD on. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that every 100% of the time it's going to keep that person alive, but it's overwhelming, the stats there. So.
And one thing I want to mention is Stinky River Tom said that, you saw a younger kid jump into the water in Wisconsin in March. So one of the things that him and I think for me, it definitely changed my opinion on Life Vest, even though I'd been wearing them for years, was last year around this time, I think it was spring break, we went on a river float. That was the one where he flipped, I flipped. And I just remember, I didn't even know which way I fell. Like, I thought I fell to the right. And he's like, no, you actually fell to the left. I didn't even know.
Yeah.
And I just remember coming up for air, and it was like I blacked out and I was cold. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
And then like the panic of, I don't have to worry about like, am I floating? Because my PFD is actually doing the work for me. And here comes my catch board coming down next to me. And so I was able to grab onto that, grab onto my paddle, and I'm not having to worry about floating. But that couple of seconds was major, because it's like, it literally felt like I blacked out because I didn't remember any of it. I just remember feeling cold and trying to get up to the surface. And we were probably in like 2 feet of water.
Yeah, 2 or 3 feet of water. Yeah, that just that second, and the first thing that leaves your senses when you go through an event like that are your motor skills. Mm-hmm. That's another reason that I'm 100% against any inflatable PFD, any manually inflatable, or even the auto. I've seen some people with the automatic, and when they get wet, they pop open. When you're paddling, you get wet, and all of a sudden this thing just blows up in your face. The manual ones, I've seen just varying degrees of I'm just going to call it what it is. It's just terrible design. Boat makes one, Boat Board. They make one that goes around it's like a belt. So when you flip over or you're in an emergency situation, you have to do a bunch of different things. You have to unzip it because it's like a fanny pack. You pull a cord, which it inflates it like 75% of the way. And then there's a little nipple that you pull out, and then you have to blow it the rest of the way up. And put the little ring around your neck so you have like a little front vest on. The amount of steps that you have to go through to do that, if you're in a panic situation or a much worse situation than we're talking about, there's no way you're going to be able to do that. And even the manual pull tab ones, they don't come armed, and a lot of people will buy those. They have a little CO2 canister. You have to screw that into the nozzle. You have to arm it before that'll even work. There's a ton of people that just buy them off the rack, put them on, go out on the water. And I've seen them, they'll pull that tab and they'll bring it back, say, this doesn't work. Well, it's because that wasn't done. It doesn't come in the package, screwed in, ready to go. So there's a lot. I always like to take as much of the guesswork out as possible on that. So that's kind of my spiel on that. Again, we can talk all night on that. The biggest thing is, we're getting into that springtime. We're getting into that, most of us are going to go places if we're not there already, get out on the water, and just really want to, make sure that you're making people aware of that. You don't have to be preaching to anybody. You're not going to make anybody do it that doesn't want to do it. But, just know that somebody is counting on that person or yourself to be home, and definitely want to make sure that you get there. Stinky River, I appreciate you, sir. Thank you very much.
I'm going to answer this before you do.
Go ahead. Go right ahead.
If you are looking for something that you want on a river, him and I were actually talking about this today.
Yep.
When his tripper gives out on him, his next river kayak is a U10.
Yeah.
And so the thing with the U10 is, yes, it's shorter, but we also found that it's a little bit more maneuverable.
Yeah.
And we've both paddled that in a calmer, flatter area.
Yeah. In a little refuge. Yeah.
Yeah, but unlimited is great. Like if you wanted a tandem, the full unlimited is really great. The U10 is going to be a little more cramped depending on size of paddlers, but the U10 is one that we see consistently that people are looking to go toward when it comes to rivers, because it's a little more maneuverable than that full unlimited, which is what, 12.5 feet?
Yeah, 12.5 feet. And the one thing about the U10 is the U10 is actually not a 10-foot kayak. It's actually closer to 11. It's 10 foot, 10 inches. The name is a little, it's a good name for a kayak, but obviously it just doesn't tell the story about it. I love the U10. I don't know that I would run tandem on it. You can definitely run tandem on the unlimited. You definitely want to keep the scupper plugs in for that. You can do it on the U10, but like she said, it's going to be really cramped. But on a river, that kayak is phenomenal. If you're in big open water, it's still good. It just doesn't track that straight line performance as the full size unlimited. But I actually like the way the U10 is laid out a lot better than the full size unlimited. The flush mount rod holders are closer to the seat. It's got the little pads to run your catch boards, and you have two sets of pads for the 26 and the 32 inch catch boards, which I feel like a lot of kayaks just kind of brush off the 32 inch. Not everybody's fishing for bass. Some of them are fishing for pike and muskie and, walleye. There's a lot of stuff out there. So, and you can motorize both of them. They both have the flat transom and the 360 seat and all of the above. I think the RVR 119 from Bonafide is the best river kayak out there.
Standing in that one's going to be a little more difficult.
Yes, if you're looking for something to stand in and you like that wide open deck space, the U10 I think is something that a lot of people talk about as a flat water kayak, but you can spin it really easily. If you're in high wind or breezy conditions, you're going to want an anchor because it does sit a little bit high up in the water. It does have those high sides, so it will move you around a little bit. But again, when we took it out when we did our demo video on it, I had an anchor. So, I kind of expected that. So
don't get a claw anchor if you're on the river.
Yeah. Standing is my biggest concern. Need to be able to figure 8 well from a standing position. Yeah. And Chris Funk, actually, who's on here, he actually did a really good video on personal stability that I've shared that, just exercise you can do, because personal stability is probably the biggest thing that nobody talks about versus getting, a kayak that's 5 foot long and 6 foot long and 5 foot wide. You're still on a kayak. You're still going to feel some give. You're going to still feel some, but just, there's a lot of balancing, calves, stabilizer muscles. A lot goes into that.
Chris has differing opinions.
Differing opinions. Yeah, the Coosa X is not a bad river kayak. I've taken it on some pretty skinny water. The only thing I don't like, and this is the only thing, the only two things I had with that kayak was the fact that the foot pedals were so close together for a taller guy that keeps his weight high. And then also the just the weight of it. And I know the designers at Jackson, they know fully, it's kind of hard to sell that as a pond hopper, but it's a solid kayak. I think any river kayak, the number one thing I look at is how high in the water it sits. How shallow is that draft? And the Coosa X is really, really good at that.
Kind of getting back to the PFD thing real quick. C. Johansson said, if anyone wants to paddle with me, we have the PFDs and not optional to wear when we go. It could be legal thing if it goes sideways. This is something that we've done demo days. And that is something that is not optional when we've done demo days.
From the liability.
Yeah. And then I've also had conversations where I work, because I work for a college. And it's been conversations about, well, we should do like a float trip. And I'm like, there are so many things that I think of when I think float trip. I was like, because one of the other comments said that what they see more often is the recreational paddlers having to be rescued. And I would venture to say that when we are on the Buffalo, people fishing are wearing life vests. It's the recreational ones that are not. And I'm gonna have a girl moment for a minute. I fully understand that you don't want to have these weird tan lines. Ask him. I have the weirdest ones ever every year. It just is what it is.
You got to talk about that. You got to talk about that.
So there's a couple of things that end up happening with me tan line wise. Is I will go from wearing full length pants to capris to shorts down to the knee to shorter shorts. And there was one year he called me Candy Cane because I literally, you could see every single line.
That was hilarious.
And then the same thing when I wear shirts. And so one of the things that I really like actually is I like the fishing shirts. It's just one of those things. But I do understand, I understand the recreational side of it, but I think a lot of them are not thinking of what could go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know PFDs are not a popular topic. You can tell that by the people viewing. We've got 10 people viewing. Typically, we're at anywhere from 25 to 30 or above, and I get it, but I feel like it's just the responsible thing to do. I wouldn't feel right after seeing all this stuff, and we haven't even got into the busy time of year where people are out there on the water floating. Guys, if you ever have any questions on what kind of PFDs, the guy, a friend of ours that we had on last live stream, Dan Arbuckle, he does a phenomenal PFD, proper PFD video. I would definitely, it's Headwaters Kayak. So, if you haven't watched his channel, definitely check that out, and definitely check out that video. I'll share it on my Facebook if for those of you that do that. But it's just one of those things where I didn't grow up wearing it, and it's just one of those things where it's almost like cancer. It touches you in some way, whether it's someone had a close call or you had a close call, and it just I would hate to think of anybody that I know not being around anymore just because they had an uncomfortable PFD or just wanted to hang loose on the water there. So, and
one of the things that Andy and I talked about tonight as we were prepping for this live stream is we've been talking about wearing our PFDs during a live stream for a while.
Yeah.
And the main reason is just to show that they're comfortable because honestly, I think that was the big turning point for me is once I realized how comfortable it was. It's like, oh, I can totally do this.
And just like us before, you don't know what you don't know. There's so much there, and you don't have to spend $300 or $400 on a PFD. They're out there, the rescue PFDs, and they're good. But there's a lot of sub $100. I wouldn't go to. I don't know that I would suggest anything under $50. Those are typically going to be buddy vest. But God, they're a lot of times paddle shops will have demo vest, like our demo days,
Mm-hmm.
We had them, we'd sell them at a discount, but anyway, that's my spiel on that. We can talk kayaks, we can talk fishing, but just definitely wanted to get this out there. I know I'm probably preaching the choir to the people that are in here, but
Kayaks, huh?
kayaks, kayaks. Well, we're in 2025, so a lot is. I think, my opinion, a lot is yet to be determined. We still don't know what's going on with Hobie. New Canoe has actually shrunken their lineup down to just 3 models, which I think is smart. The Unlimited, the U10, and the Flint. It looks like they're discontinuing the Pursuit, which I always kind of thought was an underrated kayak. And they're selling what they call the Access series, which is the Frontier, but these are the 24 models. You're seeing a lot of, I think, preparation because I think the kayak industry is set for a really strong run, and you're seeing some people set themselves up for success with that. You got Big Adventures out there where they keep knocking on all cylinders. New Canoe is going to continue to do what they do best, take care of their customers, make quality kayaks. Jackson, in my opinion, is kind of having a little bit of an identity crisis, but I think they will come out strong on this because they've always made stable kayaks that perform really well in the water, and I've always been a big fan of that. I'm a bank angler looking at getting into a kayak. Is there a good PFD I can still wear a chest-mounted GoPro with, or is that a dumb idea? No, not at all. The chest-mounted, I've actually worn a chest-mounted GoPro with this PFD here. Really any PFD, because the chest mount, you can actually adjust how high and how low it sits on there. Depending on how low your kayak vest sits, I like to wear mine kind of low. You can see Christina here, she kind of wears hers a little higher. But no, you can absolutely do that, especially bank fishing. You don't have to wear your PFD for bank fishing, obviously. We just like it because it's like a storage compartment that we wear instead of having to bring a bank bag or Plano boxes with us. We still kind of do that every now and then, but it's really more of a fly fishing idea, because you see the fly fishing gear, they got pockets everywhere. It's like a cargo bodysuit, and they've got flies and hooks and all kinds of leader lines and stuff. With me, it's just, you're getting tired of that, huh?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's being a bank angler, for me, it was just more of a convenience thing with storage and just access. And because I like to cover a lot of ground when I'm bank fishing. I don't like to just stay in one spot. And if I'm in a river where, especially this time of year where the weeds haven't quite grown up too bad, I like to move a lot. I like to wade a lot. So
he says he wears his a little bit lower than I do. I'll give you a hint on the women's. There's less padding in one area. That area is a little bit higher than on yours. So mine is going to naturally sit up just a little higher.
I sag a little bit too. So, Jonathan Wees. Hey, Jonathan. Hey, as a non-swimmer with 3 grandchildren, there will never be a time when I don't have a PFD on. I appreciate that. Because yeah, I mean, that's, and what you said there, that is 100% correct. It's not always about you and what you want. You're looking out for those that care about you too. So definitely appreciate that.
I'm going to throw this out because I'm going to throw shade at me for a second. It's those of us that think we can swim really well that are the bigger problem.
Yeah, complacency.
It's that complacency. It's kind of like, and this is just for people out here in Arkansas, it's kind of like we talk about tornado warnings all the time. Like, people don't take them seriously until it's serious. It's complacency. It's the same. It's the same thing when we think we can swim well. I think I can swim well. I took swimming lessons when I was a kid. All that. Grew up in the lakes around here, but I tell you, that experience, just flipping on the kayak once in a river, that was a different experience.
Yeah, it is. It is, because what's the first thing you do when you hit the water, you go, and then that
I don't even remember that.
That gasp. Yeah.
I just remember coming up and going, it's cold.
So Mike Tanner says, wanting to start up kayak fishing but need a PFD. Chinook had some, but sold out quite a bit of the time for my size. Yeah. And honestly, if I remember correctly, I don't think NRS makes the Chinook anymore. And I definitely know, Stolquist is not coming out with any models because they're kind of on the way out there. But NRS actually makes several different models, and they all fit similar. So, I know everyone wears the Chinook and everyone swears by the Chinook, and it's a great PFD. Doesn't necessarily mean that's the only one for you. The best thing, and we don't even have that around here. There's not always a good place to try these things on, unfortunately. So that's there's not a lot of places that sell a wide variety of stuff. So
I can tell you, every single person that we float with, we all wear different life vests.
Yeah.
All of us. We range from Stolquist to NRS to
Stearns,
yeah, to Astrals to all kinds of things. So it's just that. And one of the things that I learned really quickly when I was trying on life vests, the things he thought that I would like, I absolutely hated. So I went with what. And he told me, he's like, don't look at the price, because that's going to be one of the things that I'm kind of looking at. But I ended up choosing one of the cheaper options, but it was the one that I felt most comfortable in without even knowing that it was the cheaper option.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I know budget's a thing, so don't think I don't know that and respect that. But if you're looking to get out on the water, put a solid investment in two things: your PFD and your paddle. Get those things. I'd rather see someone with a quality paddle and a PFD and a cheap kayak than vice versa, because you're going to enjoy things a lot better.
I will say this: if you have to wait to get a quality PFD, don't skip on one in the process. We didn't. Yeah. That's the other thing, is a PFD is a PFD. It may not be the best thing in the world for kayaking, but as long as you've got one, that's better than not having one.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, for us, like he said, we have to have it within reach.
I hate that rule. I hate that rule.
And I was the worst breaker of it for a very long time. And now, I mean, here's how far we went. My dog's got a PFD now. She's a lab. I've never used a PFD on her before. She doesn't like the thing. In fact, I think when I took a picture of her, she had her tongue sticking out at me. But
yeah, our dogs even wear PFDs.
Yeah, our dogs wear PFDs. Yeah. And one of the reasons for me with her is because it's got that handle on the back. And so has she ever needed it? No, but I also know that if we're kayaking and there's distance between us, she does not know who to go to.
Yeah. Chris Funk says cheap paddles sell motors.
Yes.
That is 100% correct.
Yes.
And that's a discussion for a different time, is the paddle discussion. There's so many paddles out there. And I see it all the time where someone will get on Facebook groups, just like looking for their first kayaks, is, hey, I've got this paddle and like my back's hurting and my shoulders are hurting. And then they'll say however many inches long it is. Like someone the other day was paddling a large fishing kayak with a 200 centimeter paddle, which is a child's paddle. But when you go in like your sporting goods stores, typically those are the paddles they have, those really short paddles. They just buy them in bulk and they're cheaper. And I tell you what, being sized up, there's all kinds of places you can go to find out what size paddle. Your paddling style is also going to tell you what you need to know. If you have a high angle paddle stroke, you like to be really close to the kayak. It helps with tracking, but you're probably going to need a little bit of a shorter paddle. I always feel like people go too long on paddles, and basically what that does is the paddle's going further away from the side of the kayak, and it makes your kayak fish back and forth. And don't get me wrong, kayak design matters, but typically when somebody says, one person will say one kayak tracks amazing, the other person will say that same kayak tracks terribly. It's usually a technique issue there. So Chris says again, dude, it's not a barge. Your paddle sucks and you never learned how to use it. Me to everyone.
Oh man, no. We actually had this conversation today because he was looking at a nice, fully carbon paddle, and he's looking at me, and this thing's like 250 to 265, and I'm looking at him. I was like,
yeah, it's a little.
I'm like, you have a paddle that goes from 230 to 245, and mine's a 240 to 250. I
like nice things. Leave me alone.
You like nice things, but let's make sure that you get the right size paddle for what you do, which is a little different than what I do. And I will tell you, him and I, even if we switch kayaks, I like my paddle a little bit longer. He likes his a little bit shorter, but I think it comes down to the way that we paddle.
Yeah, Night Wolf Fishing says, in my opinion, the best PFD is one you forget you have on. 100%, 100%. There's, I think the one reason that people like the NRS Chinook is they have that mesh back, so it breathes a little better, and it's got that little high hump. So there are different classes of PFDs, obviously, but and there's some that are designed to keep your head above water. Should you get knocked out? But just I always hate seeing people with those little orange rings around their neck, or some, technically they're Coast Guard approved, so just the floatable rings will get you out of a ticket, but they're not going to do anything for you if you're out there.
Yes. I can't tell you how many times that we have done this. The number of times that we actually load up our kayaks. I mean, we're talking about 2 people fishing, so Black Pack Pros, all of the stuff that goes with it, and we both still have our PFDs on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And like I said, the Chinook is a popular one because it's good for big guys, and again, it's got that mesh, and it's almost a non-existent back, and it's got that little high hump. I've just never been a big fan of that hump in the back, because a lot of us that have high back frame seats, it kind of messes with that back there if you don't have it just right. And it's one of those things. It's like having an itchy tag on your t-shirt. It kind of gets annoying. I like having a more of a really thin foam back. It still gives you some flotation, but it doesn't push you forward or anything like some of the life jackets do.
Chris was saying the V8. This is coolest so far.
V8 is my coolest so far. Who makes that? I can't say I've heard of that one, which I'm ashamed to say. There's so many of them out there, of course, but there's only so many that we carried, which is unfortunate. I always like seeing places that have a lot of, and we always seem to sell. We had a lot of cheap ones, cheaper ones that were made by the same companies, but we rarely sold them. We always sold the higher dollar ones because people just take them. Astral V8. Okay.
What's that?
I thought the difference between the U10 and the Unlimited was behind the tracks and the back. Wouldn't they have the same seat room tandem, or am I missing something? Just less room for storage. Yeah, everything is kind of shrunken down a little bit. It's you're going from a 12.5-foot kayak to an 11-foot or a 10-foot 10-inch kayak, so you're losing about 1.5 feet. You still have storage in the back. You still have storage in the front. It's not quite the same, obviously, but if you're truly wanting to run tandem, you can do it on the U10. It just may not be as comfortable as the 12-foot version. And I'm never a huge fan of fishing tandem, and I'm not sure if that's what you're wanting to do there. Fishing tandem on a kayak is just a recipe for disaster. No, I'm not talking about the divorce boat thing. I'm talking about getting in someone's back cast.
I'm talking about the times I've nearly killed you in a different kayak.
Yeah. We're in separate kayaks, and you're slinging that thing all over the place.
And one other thing with the U10 that's actually kind of cool is they have it set up so that way you can place that catch board on there, which is kind of cool too.
That is phenomenal.
And then the other thing is what we constantly talk about is the rod holders on the U10 are a lot easier to get to than on the Unlimited itself.
And the horizontal rod storage is phenomenal in there too. You have little saddles, which are actually really nicely done. So you're putting the rod butt in there so the tips can kind of rest against the tip of the boat. Granted, depending on what kind of water you're on, if you're going somewhere with a lot of vegetation, a lot of tree branches, you don't want your rod tips to be hanging off the tip whatsoever. But you also have little divots on the deck that you can lay them on the deck, and it's not in your way. So it's just one of those. I'm always a big fan of designs that make efficient use of the space, and NuCanoe has been pretty good at that in the past, but they've knocked it out of the park with that U10. And then also, Bonafide has really come on lately. Of course, the RVR with the divots underneath the seat, and then the strap up front. You're seeing Crescent Kayak doing the same thing with that strap. It's a little Velcro strap that you can put over your rod tip. So if you do turn over, it's going to save you quite a bit of money there. So.
Let me just say to this, 3-ounce lure with a 5/0 hook in the back of my head. Back of my head sounds ... fun. So here's the thing. I love this man dearly, but I am terrible about almost killing him.
Well, you're focused on fishing.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
So, I mean, I've nearly gotten him when he was next to me in a kayak on more than one occasion. I've nearly gotten him while we're bank fishing. So I can't imagine. We've seen people tandem kayak, but it's usually husband and wife. Husband's fishing, usually in the back, and like having to be super, super careful. It's just, I'm terrified of getting a hook in my hand, let alone anywhere else. That is just one thing that just sounds.
So we were, that was on the Buffalo.
No, that was on
Crooked.
Crooked.
That was on Crooked. We saw someone in a new canoe Frontier with a tandem setup on it, and it was the wife paddling in the front, and the husband was fishing off the back. And I was just sitting there thinking, I'm like, I was just overcome with jealousy that I couldn't really enjoy what I was doing at the time, because of like, how do you pull that kind of setup, having the wife shuttle you around while you're just fishing off the back? So
that would never work with us.
That would never work. You like fishing too much, but we do it, but we are unicorns, I guess. Oh. Yeah, that's right. Chris, I saw your video. Appreciate the shout out, that Arkansas minnow. I'm glad that was working for Miss Angie there. And it's, God bless y'all. I'm so glad to see her back on the water and enjoying that. So, those of you that don't know, Chris's wife is a cancer survivor, and she is back on the water fishing. So again, I'm not trying to put your business out there, but definitely like seeing her get back on there. We've had both of them on the show here before, but James says, have y'all checked out the new Old Town PDL 120 Pro? I haven't seen one personally. Our friends Jay with Bearded Dad Fishing, he did a video on it that I watched. And then also John with Creek Fishing Adventures has one. I'm a big fan of it, honestly. I'm not a fan of the EPDL version of it, just because I think that setup is so niche, and it's still got that $6,000 price range when it's just a Sportsman 120 with an electronic assisted pedal drive. I feel like at that price point, $6,000, you can build a phenomenal kayak with a bow mount or a stern mount trolling motor, a battery, everything you need, and still be under that $6,000. You can go over it, obviously, but I think they've priced themselves out of the market that they're wanting on that. But the PDL Pro, you've got some motor mounts, you've got thinner gunnels that widen the deck. It was very similar to what Jackson tried to do with the NAR. They had those thinner gunnels, they widened things out. And I think it was a good design, and for a platform that, in my opinion, really, really needed to be updated. Carol says, he better paddle while I fish. She was the one that bought the bought the PWR there. Thank you. I still want to get the Chase show. 100%. My life and schedule has gotten very hectic here, but hopefully that will calm down here fairly soon. And we'll definitely try to get out there. So.
Mine will stay a little hectic.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But definitely want to chase those shoal bass. Yes. That is definitely something that's on my bucket list. Are there any PFD companies to stay away from? That's actually a really good question. And I hate to say this because not everybody knows the great brands out there, but always be mindful of the deal that seems too good to be true. I say the same thing about kayaks. You do get what you pay for. You're not going to spend $20 and get a phenomenal setup. Will it float? Maybe. Will it fit you nicely? Maybe. Again, it's really NRS. If you can still find Skullquist out there. A lot of people are running sales on those to get rid of excess inventory. And there's times a year that are good to buy those. But right now, just be wary of overly cheap priced items.
And the bigger thing I think is looking at the type of vest, because we talked about the inflatables earlier and talked about the ones that you have to pull in order to inflate. Anything like that is, those are the things to be aware of. Just know that if you're going that direction, there's a lot of steps to that. And he was talking about it. What's the first thing that goes? Teaching anatomy and physiology when you're in fight or flight, which is survival mode, your fine motor skills are out the window. We call it fight, flight, or freeze. It's one of those things. I liken it to being chased by a bear.
That's exactly right, though.
Yeah. It's just going to be one of those things that you're just trying to survive. And as terrible as this sounds, one of the things that we get training with as teachers is active shooter. And they always tell us, do not keep your doors unlocked. Keep them locked, because the first thing that'll go is if you're trying to do anything with that fine motor skills, those are the things that are being lost first. So again, with those inflatable ones that you have to pull a cord or unzip or anything like that, it makes it a lot more difficult.
Caro's almost on the water too, waiting on lights installation and time to go. What kind of lights are you going with? I'm very curious on that. There's a lot of good options out there. A lot of people like going those strip lights. We love our Guardian Angel setups just because of the simplicity of it, but there's a lot of good options out there. Mike asks, says, I'm not researched, but there's a rating to keep in mind. That's kind of a tricky question because
Coast Guard approved.
Make sure it's Coast Guard approved. Make sure it's comfortable. There are different classes, so the ratings are, ratings can be if they're going to protect you if you're knocked out, if they're going to keep you above, your head above water. There's a lot of different things, and some of them are going to be overkill, which is not a bad thing, but like Night Wolf Fishing here just said, on the cheaper side, my son loves his Magellan vest. It's nice. I think costs $65 or so. It's the one that has the fold down front pocket. So again, $65 is still in that price range, in my opinion, that is good to go with, 50 and above. Again, the most comfortable thing is that it fits, and then it's going to keep you afloat. Keep in mind, you're going to have this on for quite a while. So, just because something is comfortable in the store, these were really puffy when we first got them, the Stalquist specifically, they get really puffy. Over time, that breaks down, it'll form to your body. So the more you wear it, the more comfortable it gets. Okay, so Kara says, after much debate, he's going to go with Guardian as well. Took convos with Chad Hoover and Gene Jensen to convince him not to drill holes in my kayak. Gramps too, and that was my thing. I love the Guardian Angel setup because it's very bright and it's remote controlled and it's not pricey. And I'm not saying $189 is cheap, but when you're talking about a light setup that is beyond the requirements of that, you got the green and the red on the front, you got the white on the back, it's remote controlled, you got the SOS light, and it's all waterproof. They're crush proof. Like I said, they're phenomenal. It's not going to be something that's going to last you for 12 hours on the water at the brightest setting, but you don't need to use the brightest setting on that. It's a lot like running your battery on your trolling motor. If you run it full speed constantly, you're just going to get a couple of hours out of it. But there's an efficient way to do that. And again, we love them. It's a USB-C port. You don't have to run any wires. You don't have to run a battery, and you're not drilling holes in your kayak. And it's like an 8-pound magnet on that or something. Yeah,
it's pretty impressive. I mean, I've seen him install yak power and lighting and stuff, and that is. I looked at him and I was like, "That's too much work."
Yeah,
it's too much work.
The Temu ones may not be. Yeah, be careful with Temu. I know I did a video on Temu, but they let me pick what I was reviewing, so I thought, why not? It's that. So that's a prime example of getting what you pay for. If you see something that's everywhere is $50, $60 or above, and then all of a sudden you see something come across it's $10, be wary of that when you're talking about a PFD. Now, if you're talking about a fishing rod holder or something, that's a different different discussion there. Cjo got the Guardian Angel last year, and it's worth the money, and transfers between boats with the magnets. That is 100% true. And they've also got other mounts. I used to have a discount code with them, but for some reason they did away, or they paused their affiliate program, which is fine. I still promote them because I bought mine at full price. It wasn't something that they just gave me. Because again, I wanted to try it out. It seemed too good to be true, but it was a really good option. And then once I was in the program, they sent me the second one to demo and kind of do the videos on. But I'd already bought that one, and already, again, most of the stuff I promote are things that all of the things I would promote are things that I would buy myself.
Jonathan Weiss had a good question too.
Do you have an opinion on the Wilderness Systems Tactical 128 kayak? I do. Just personal opinion. I don't think it's a bad kayak. It's too close to the price of the XTR 130 from Bonafide. And the XTR is that big kayak that's got the open deck and all the storage. Also, the fact that Wilderness Systems designed a kayak around the Motor Guide XI3 and Motor Guide going out. Now, there's other options out there. I wouldn't worry about that, but that's in the fact that Confluence is sent notice of intention to file bankruptcy. What does that look like in the future? Do I think they're going under? No, but we don't know what's going to happen with that. So.
And that may be why it was pushed back, because the Tactical Pro was supposed to come out. Oh, I mean, it was at
ICAST.
Yeah, last year.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen one yet.
Yeah. They keep pushing it back and back and back. So there's a little bit of smoke there. I think they're going to be fine because there's a lot of money in there, but you're starting to see some of these groups, these financial groups that are backing the paddle sports manufacturer. You're starting to see some of them leave. So I think that's what a lot of this is going on. So we all make a lot of big deal about Hobie being owned by investors. A lot of these paddle companies are owned by investors. There's backing there. Even Yak Attack has, investment groups that are backing them. So, when those leave, those pockets are not as deep. And with the Confluence, which Confluence is Pelican, they're owned by Pelican. So Pelican is the one filing that. But you're talking about, Wilderness Systems, you're talking about Perception, which in my opinion, Perception is the minimum kayak that I always suggest people to look at. And it's something to keep an eye on for sure.
And that comes after Pelican bought out Confluence, 2 years ago?
Oh, it's been I think it's been over 5 years ago. It was before I was at the shop, but I think there's going to be some reshuffling. There's going to be some reorganization going on. We still don't know what is going on with Hobie. I'm hearing things, but like I said, I'm not going to report anything on rumors because we all know how that goes. But yeah, I mean, 2025 is going to be an interesting year, but I think it's going to set up things for that long run moving forward. Because we saw it when COVID, all these kayak companies started popping up. They wanted to cash in really quickly on the boom. And you saw that where, they're using older patents of these companies that have done all the research and all the designing, and they're just slapping it on a cheap kayak. But when you look at a kayak side by side, the drive looks similar. One kayak is $1,000. The other one is $3,000. Well, they look the same. So what's the difference? There's a lot of difference in that stuff. So you're starting to see some of those companies fall off, which is another reason I always tell people, make sure you're buying from a company that you are confident is going to be around for a while, because it doesn't, someone can have a lifetime warranty, but if they are only open for about 2 or 3 more years, then that's the lifetime. By the way, although heavily modified, the Perception Showdown is still doing good. It's getting taken good care of. That's good to know, because the Showdown, and those of you that don't know, the Perception Showdown is the pedal drive version of the Perception Outlaw, which is one of the best-selling kayaks out there. especially for someone that just wants stability. But yeah, definitely solid. And of course, I know you've motorized it and definitely caught some good fish out of that thing. How's your brother's gnar still doing? Because the last time I saw that thing, it looked like it had been used heavily. I didn't know if he was still in that or not. Let's see. James says he's got the Stolquist Keeper. It's comfy. That's actually what I'm wearing here. This is the Keeper in the olive color. And it's actually got I actually like it because it's got like these little pockets here, and I actually stick my mic in there, especially when I'm filming on water. That is not what I had in mind when I bought this. But,
I'm not that fancy. I gotta hide my mic.
You know, we can't all be cool.
I will say, Chris Funk definitely hit it on the head with women's life vests. There's not many options.
There's definitely not a lot of comfortable options either.
And here's one of the things that I noticed talking to women who had tried on the women's vest and the men's vest. There were some women that actually preferred the men's vest, and that's fine. Not a big deal. I mean, the big difference between, I would wear his anyway.
A lot more research goes into the men's vest, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of you lady anglers out there. There are some women out there doing the thing, and I'm not talking about just social media people. I'm talking about people out there in the tournaments. I think our last year the Arkansas State kayak champion was a woman angler. So
we've got one in our local Twin Lakes kayak anglers.
Oh, that's right. Right. Yeah.
Jamie DeZenzo. Yeah. She's awesome.
And then we got Caro in here that's in the chat here. Like I said, you're definitely seeing more and more of that. I'm a huge fan of that. Unfortunately, I've reached out to a lot of lady anglers out there. They're very hesitant to come on shows. So extra graph, I still outfish. So Jonathan says his brother's got the Jackson gnar. It's doing good. He just added an extra graph, but he still outfishes them.
That was my favorite part was, I think it was 2 years ago now where I outfished you that year. I had a really good year and he had a graph. I don't know how to use them. So
yeah, I'm not a big fan of graphs. I think they're a good tool. We're usually fishing in parts of the water that we know really well. And I got a graph with side scan and all that just so I could see structure and all that. But honestly, I'm still doing the same thing. I'm looking for signs of life. I'm looking for birds, for herons, for ducks, frogs, topwater hit, like all of that. If you're in there and everything's just really calm and nothing really going on, there's probably not, obviously there may be fish in there, but.
My favorite fish that I caught were the shad last year.
Yeah.
In the bait ball.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, it goes to the whole discussion with live scope and fishing. Everyone says it's cheating, but when the first graphs came out, people were saying that was cheating too, and everyone's got them. So is
it cheating if you're sight fishing?
Well, that's pretty much. I mean, that's not the worst point. If you're sight fishing, especially if you're fishing on beds.
I mean, if you're sight fishing and you catch a fish, more power to you because I've never been able to do it.
Well, yeah. Usually if you see them, they can see you.
Yeah.
That's the importance of a good pair of sunglasses too. I remember that's still the worst viewed video I've ever done was my sunglass video. My sunglass reviews where I reviewed the Hobie eyewear floatables, the Waterland Co. And people were saying, it's like, I'm not going to spend $200 for a pair of sunglasses. Like, I get it. But they were nice enough to send me some stuff.
$15, man.
Yeah, $15.
And this is actually my replacement pair because the first pair that I lost were these exact ones in, I think it was Crooked. And then my fancy Nikes that I had, those got busted in the house.
So James says, I've got a Garmin Striker to use this year. That is what I started on. And honestly, I got too fancy with it for my liking. The Garmin Striker, in my opinion, is the best kayak. Just not just starter, just in general, you don't need a big screen. And with the Garmin Striker, you're going to find out what the terrain looks like underneath you, the water temperature. That's it. That knowing the water temp and what's, the depth, you can kind of see those, you can see if you got a little creek bed running underneath you there, or a trough or a shelf. You can see that on the Garmin Striker. Sorry, I'm delayed watching. I'm a little behind the line. Okay. Well, yeah, no worries. No worries. Just glad you're here.
Chris Funk said, the older you get, the more important good glasses will be. Yeah. Yeah.
That's true.
Trust me, I'm getting there. Him and I have the conversation. I'm waiting to realize that I'm blind.
I think you're already there. You just don't know it. You never know you're blind until you take that eye test. And because I remember, like, in school, just sitting in the back of the class and doing it, I thought that was normal. And then when I went to the eye doctor, of course, we didn't have vision insurance back then. It was just, we had to save up. We had to save up to be poor. So they took me to the eye doctor, and I remember getting the glasses on and just seeing detail like I've never seen before. Like I didn't know I was going blind. Of course, I'm wearing contacts now. So those of you that know, I've definitely, my vision has definitely gotten poorer as I've gotten older.
Yeah.
But that's a good point, though. I mean, good sunglasses are, and again, you don't have to spend $200 for sunglasses, nope. But just having a good pair of polarized sunglasses. I have a green, the green mirror and the copper mirror.
Oh.
Yeah, you just got yours. Mine are in the truck, but yeah.
My fancy ones that I don't wear for fishing, and the ones I do wear for fishing.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got still got my Waterlands. I love those sunglasses. I've got some Wiley X's coming in. I'm looking forward to doing.
Okay, so there is one other thing. I got to brag on this man real quick, because he talked to John from Creek Fishing Adventures about a spinner combo, like a
high quality river combo. Yeah.
And this man, while he was at work, and we were like 3 hours away, he calls me. He's like, "Hey, I got you the same combo."
Oh, well, it's because your combo was terrible.
Yeah,
and
it was rough.
Yeah.
I still caught 2 fish that day, though.
Yeah, you did. But you used mine for a little bit. And for reference, I've got a Shimano Mirabelle 2500 series on a St. Croix rod. And was it medium fast or medium? It's a medium fast. And I can cast lightweight lures very, very far, and I'm accurate with it, almost bait caster accurate. But she used it, and of course she's wondering why she can't get it all the way across the river. And I'm like, well, to use this, and then she just flings it over there. Like, yeah, that's where quality comes in. And then of course she liked it so much. I'm like, okay, I got to get you one, because I want to keep you fishing with me. So. Carol says, $5 yum from Wally World work better than my Costas.
I will honestly tell you, the Nikes that I've had, as much as I love them, they're not great for fishing.
They're not made for fishing.
My $15, these are Ike and Ellie, actually, from Walmart, are the glasses I prefer and I actually do better with.
Well, they're made for fishing, though. Yeah. And there's a little bit of difference. Certain types of eyewear allow so much light in, but I like having the 2 colors. I like having the green, and I like having the copper, just because some of them let you see better in overcast, some of them let you see better when it's clear out. Obviously, depending on your visibility in the water is going to make a big deal in that. But there's been times, even this few days ago, when we went to Big Piney, we have our sunglasses on, and you're able to see, a largemouth bass getting ready,
super cool
bedding. And of course you take them off and then you can't see anything. Yeah. So I like seeing stuff, even if I'm not sight fishing. So Angie still loves her spin casts. So I just buy her the best I can get her. You know what? Honestly, that's the way she is. So Chris, she never spends money on herself. And it drives me insane, because she's the least selfish person I know, but it drives me nuts because I want her to enjoy stuff, and it makes me feel terrible because I've got all this quality gear and then I can't get hurt. So I just started buying her stuff. I just don't even ask permission anymore. Because I've got my Shimano DC reel for the lake, and I've got a Lew's tournament that I really like, and she's been rocking that same Lew's, the Smash, wasn't it? Yeah, the Smash.
I have both the Smash, the bait caster, and the
spinner, and I think she just likes it because of the color. But it's a good rod. It's a good combo, but
it's just
you needed a lighter weight for creeks and rivers, and
I mean, here's the reality of it is I had 2 different spinners, and I broke the mess out of the first one. The rod actually broke.
That was cheap.
Yeah.
That was cheap.
And then we got the spinner Smash, which I really, really liked, and then I decided to try a bait caster, and that was the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
And now I'm like sitting there eyeing a Crush combo.
Oh yeah, we'll get
that. I'm sure there's better things out there than that.
Yeah, it's just something that caught your eye. So Cjo asks, any thoughts on Vexen rods? I am not a expert on all the different kinds of rods. Fishing with Gramps is phenomenal on fishing gear reviews. I'm kind of the kayak guy. I'm a St. Croix guy personally. I like the way they feel. But there's so many good rods out there. There's so many good local brands out there. I've seen Denali's, but I've seen a lot of smaller companies put out some really, really nice gear. And honestly, I'd almost say your rod matters more than your reel does. A good rod paired with a decent reel is probably going to get you a little bit more happiness on the water than a great reel and an okay rod. I like St. Croix. They're a little pricier, but they have some options that are not as pricey. And that's, I think it was the St. Croix Triumph that we paired with that Shimano. And I like Shimano reels. I've spent some money on those, and I've just been extremely happy with it. We just cleaned our reels here last week, and we've been neglecting doing that. That's another thing, is just reel maintenance is just something I need to get better at. But there's so many different variations out there, way more than the kayak industry. And I like, I'm sure it's a great rod. It just, there's so many variations of them. So there's a lot of people that do better at reviews than I do on that. So I just wouldn't have any good answers for you unless somebody in the chat here knows anything about them.
We dabble in fishing.
Oh, we fish the mess out.
We dabble.
Yeah, we're not well versed in all the different kinds of rods and reel combos. There's as I said, there's a lot of great stuff out there. There's the lightweight bait casters. I'm drawing a blank here. I forget about it.
That's like me trying to say paddleboard earlier.
Yeah, St. Croix rods are awesome. Have several, and yes, Gramps is awesome to watch. Yeah, and Cjo, if you're wondering, if you're not sure who Gramps is, it's Fishing with Gramps, or it might be Hickman Outdoors. I think he changed the name of his YouTube channel, but that's all he does is he'll do like kayak fishing videos, but he does a lot of gear reviews rod and reel combos. Aggressively Average Anglers, they also do a lot of good gear reviews as well as kayak stuff. Because in my opinion, I think rod and reel combos are different for the kayak fishing industry than they are the big boat industry. What works for one may not work the best for others. I think to go a little too long on some of my combos because I'm just, I like having a 7.2, 7.3, but when a 7 foot or 6.11 might be better.
Ooh.
I'm a great swimmer. I grew up on the water, but the first time I went on the water from my yak, the water was 38. I got tangled in old trout line. And on top of it all, I was freaked out. That's very, very true.
And that's what I was mentioning earlier, is those of us that grew up on the water, all of that, sometimes we take it for granted. And when we get into that situation the first time, we're like, oh, this is different.
Carol also said Debo's fishing. That's also another good one. And these are all people that we watch as well. Because again, fishing got me into kayaking versus kayaking getting me into fishing. So, but I grew up with the old Zebco enclosed reels. And the first time I bought a bait caster, I probably thought that's what I was buying. That's how much of a noob I am at great fishing gear. The first time I took a bait caster out, I hit the button and I just launched it like I thought I was going to with those old Zebcos, and I had the worst bird's nest I've ever seen. And then I was like, okay, I had to watch videos on how to use bait casters properly. So I got back on my yak and I thought I was going to die, but it was, yeah. And that's a good thing about the knife. So getting tangled up in fishing line, trout lines, anything like that, those knives are good to have. And those river knives are even better, but a lot of those PFDs will have those river knife clip-ons, and you'll see. If you ever see that little black square with the little plastic thing on it, that's what those are for, is those river knives. NRS sells them, but there's a lot of companies that sell those. Same, yeah. Well, guys, we're at an hour 16, and as much as I'd love to sit here and talk to y'all all night, value your time as much as ours here, but congratulations to the winners. Thank you so much for 10,000 subscribers. It was a big deal for us because we started out the gates really fast. The last several months has been kind of slower because we just haven't put out as much content. Looking forward to getting out more content. I'll be releasing the on the water review of the LTE. Slayer Propel LTE, the lightweight pedal drive kayak that just came out, and then we just did the walkthrough. That today? It was today that came out.
Yeah.
So we just released that today.
We had some technical difficulties trying to get that video out.
Yeah. We're in Rolla, Missouri. The hotel I was at was just, the internet was terrible, and then I had to re-upload it when I got home, and it took forever. So yeah. But
we've got video for it on the water, so we're just going to be. I say we. He's got video for it because he's the content creator here. I just kind of hang out every once in a while.
You filmed it.
Maybe.
Oh my God. Take some credit. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting that out. We'll be doing some, we'll be doing our personal setups here soon too, because we're getting to that time of year where I'm almost finished rigging mine. My Bonafide, I've got the Wizard kit on it, the foot steering, the NK300. It looks completely different than it did last year when I did my personal setup. I've gone stern mounted motor, Red Odeo batteries is still what I'm rocking. I've had zero issues out of them. It's the one thing that I've seen in the fishing and kayak fishing space that cheaper, you're still getting a decent quality. And again, you're still spending $200 or $300 or more, but you're not spending $700 or $800 or $1,200. So
yeah, and if you guys want to see more simplistic setups, that's going to be me because mine hasn't changed.
Yeah, and our river setups. That's one thing I am so passionate about: river fishing. I love smallmouth bass, and I love keeping it simple. I love having a paddle in my hands. As much content as I do about motors and fishing kayaks and batteries and stuff. At heart, I'm still I still like being in scenic, moving water, chasing multi-species of fish, and just getting out there. But look for everything kayak fishing. That's Gramps as well. He's asked for walkthrough videos. Yeah, ton of gear out there. So as I said, I'm in my niche, mid to upper level kayaks and kayak fishing. But there's definitely plenty of creators out there that go over those and do it well. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you hanging with us as long as you have. And then we'll try to get some more going. We've got some guests lined up. As soon as we get those lined up, we'll get the notifications out. If you follow me on Facebook, it's just Bearded Paddler. I put out all those notifications. I do a lot of reels and a lot of other content you don't see on YouTube. So again, if you definitely haven't followed me on Facebook, do so. And I'm more available on Facebook, I think, than on YouTube. The comments kind of get crazy sometimes, and things get lost in that, I feel sometimes. But anyways, guys, thank you so much. We'll see you on the next video, guys.